Tēnā koutou katoa. E mihi ana ki te tangata whenua, e mihi ana ki ngā mana whenua. Ko tarani airana me ingarihi oku tipuna, no Waikanae hou, e noho ana Auki Waikanae, ko Chelsea toku ingoa, ko Aurora taku neru. E mahi ana Auki REANNZ, he kaiwhanake punaha a ipurangi a hou. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Hello everybody. I'm Chelsea. About me, I'm a Network DevOps Engineer at REANNZ. I am a committee member of Python New Zealand. I also am an organizer of this year's Kiwi PyCon. I like automating things as well. I like sea shanties. So what am I going to cover in this talk? I'm going to cover what is templating, why, and some examples. We've got like a Flask application with Ansible, Juniper router with standard configuration, and basically the stuff that I actually want to talk about, which is stuff that I did for Kiwi PyCon. And also how you can get started with templating. So rather than actually going to the end of the slide, I thought I'd just give you the key takeaway right now. If you want to get started in templating, take a screenshot of that. I'm not associated with the Ginger project or anything, but I think it's pretty great. I like the core developers of that as well. Go check it out. So what is templating? Well, the Oxford English Dictionary definition. Nope. It's apparently not an actual word, or at least since I finished writing this talk yesterday, which is a little awkward since I'm big on a thing that is apparently not a thing. But regardless, I think it's a word, so I've made up my own definition. Which for me is the art of making and using templates in order to create less work for yourself and others, eventually. Okay, well, going by that leads to the next question. What is a template? Well, templates come in many forms, but I like to think of them in the context of text files or even a document. So imagine here a text file with all the information on it put there manually, this stuff there. Imagination, right? Say there are certain bits in that file that we want to replace with some data, we can make it a template and add markers to specify where that data goes, which will allow us to have an application or script send data into that template and create a text file, or multiple files as we desire. The way I think about templates is that you have a set of data that goes into something that generates stuff. The more I think about it, the more I realize that it's kind of the opposite of my arch nemesis, which is a form. Like, if you know me, forms are kind of my kryptonite. But yeah, if we're thinking about a form, you've got stuff that goes into a thing, and now you have data. But there's all sorts of problems about that, and this isn't a talk about forms. So anyway, back to templates. I thought I'd give some background on my experience with templates back when I first got into the more software side of things back in 2016 with Django. You may be familiar with Django templates, and I gotta say, when I first started, I had a hard time with them because I thought they couldn't do the exact thing that I was trying to accomplish. I ended up building my own front-end single-page website thingy that handled voice recording, uploads, and playback, using an artistic amount of JavaScript and jQuery. No shade to those, by the way. It wasn't good code by any standard. I was inexperienced at the time, and I didn't really appreciate the value of templating. It was actually in my previous role at Catalyst where I spent a lot of time using the Puppet templating language. That's where I formed a lot of opinions. So this might apply to the sysadmin infrastructure side of things, But I noticed that things were being done the hard way, or at least in a way that leaves out rakes for new people coming into the codebase. A big one was using Puppet's file line replacement tool, which works in a similar way to SED, where you specify the pattern of replacement. It was being used to manage a significant portion of configuration files. So what's bad about that? Well, I guess the problem is visibility and consistency. The visibility problem is that it's not easy or intuitive to visualize where the change is being made. Yes, you might get a diff, but realistically, the changes can get lost in a bunch of noise and it isn't easy to sift through. Additionally, you end up with configuration scripts that end up way longer than they should be, making it even harder to piece together what is actually going on. And because changes are being made based on patterns, it might not always work, leading to lack of consistency. With a template, you at least have a start-to-finish outline of what is being done, and I think that's just neat. Also, you're ensuring consistency by managing the whole thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think changing config files with SED or some other pattern matching thing is inherently bad, but I think the use cases are limited, and a lot of the time, things should be managed with templates. So anyway, this is a Python conference. I should at least bring your attention to some practical uses. The first one being a Flask application being deployed using Ansible. What is Ansible? To keep it short, Ansible is an open source IT automation engine that is written with Python. You can use a playbook and possibly roles plus other scripts and do things to provision and manage the state of servers, applications, provisioning, and probably some other buzzwordy things. Say we create a role to manage the provisioning and configuration of a Flask application. A really basic role may have default values, meta information, tasks, readme, telling you what it's for, and templates. So this Flask application needs a local settings.py file. We can create one as a template, set a bunch of values in the host group or default variables files that it goes into, and then we can also include encrypted secrets from Ansible Vault so that we don't have any secrets in clear text in our Ansible config. Additionally, we might want a systemd service file to run the application, and we can template that too. So that's nice. Now some Juniper stuff. So, oh my goodness, this happened to me before. It's just a picture, basically. There's a picture of a bunch of set config, which is the example. Anyway, at REANNZ, we run our network on a bunch of Juniper devices, routers, and switches. There are multiple ways of configuring Juniper devices, but we configure those using set config as it is context aware. Without going into too much detail about something I know very little about, the config is applied in a way that is consistent across different device types and states. So we would do something like create a bunch of set config, use some in-house Python scripts that utilize the Junos PyAirs library, and apply that across a bunch of Junipers. For that set config that we can apply across all devices or a type of device, we template it using Ginger with data from our network database or Ansible. This is an example of what we use, though I've changed some things to not give away what we do specifically because security something. Okay, now for why I'm really here. So this talk's title is I love templating and you should too. But really it should just be called Stuff I Did for Kiwi PyCon. If you've seen the Kiwi PyCon website, you may have noticed those really awesome talk images. Yeah, that was me. So before we confirmed our talk schedule, I was tasked with making images for the talk gallery. I had a certain amount of requirements. Make a thing, have it ready, make it flexible and reusable. Granted, I don't know if anyone other than myself provided these requirements, but I don't think that's an important detail. So I was given some PDFs from our designer as a general template for what we wanted to create. Like any normal person, I opened them in Inkscape. And I realized, these convert fairly well to SVGs. And if you attended the security tutorial on Friday, you'd know that SVGs are basically XML, which is basically a text file. And there's things in here that we can template. So I grabbed the talks data from pre-talks as well as speaker images. You can embed images in an SVG with base 64 encoding, so I did that. Put that into templates, and well, we have pretty things. So, all good, right? Well, we had a bunch of problems. Not all speakers had images. We had some centering issues and alignment problems. And also, some abstracts were just really long and just fell out of the template itself. So, I believe in YAML-driven development. That doesn't show, that's annoying. There's basically a bunch of YAML that should be on the screen. I made my thing configurable so that I could override and manage a certain aspect of the image and whatnot, and have it consistent every time. Here I'm managing. Sorry? Really? Yeah, no, but then I lose my time on my thingy. Actually, that's broken as well. That's awesome. I have no idea how much time has gone. Let's exit that for a second. The thing is that when we go out of presenter mode, like, I don't have my notes anymore, which is a real problem because, yeah, 1 second. Technical difficulties. Let's just get this back. Yeah, I really need my notes. Saw the YAML. There's the YAML there. 1 second. That big. Pip-dip-doo. Oh, where is my mouse gone? There we go. Let's make that big. Okay. So, where was I? Yeah. In that thing that I just showed you, I was managing the length of a description by matching the start and end point. Now, some people might call me a hypocrite for bagging on pattern and string matching when I'm using some form of it here. Well, in this case, the description is not really a replicable thing. There's always going to be some variation and requires a manual touch. So anyway, we do all of that and we end up with something like this. And I will say, these were on the website within about an hour or so of finalizing the schedule. So I'm proud of that. Now, how much time do we have? Excellent. Goodness, I'm blasting through this. Live demo time. I would like to get out of this. Yoink. Nope, I think he's on this side. Cool, so I've got on my laptop here the talk galleries that I've done. Here is an example, if it loads. No, it's showing up on the screen. A thing of the an example of the output as it currently stands. Now, I've made some changes in the configuration file, so if we just run that script. Barely see that. No, I don't want to clean. Cool, so in the background, it's actually running Inkscape as it's creating these things. You can't really see that because it's showing up on my little dock thingy, and I'll just stall for time as that happens. She says as she goes silent. I'm not doing it. What, sea shanties? Oh no, it's completed. And if we... Drumroll, please. Hey! Cool. So, yeah, we've got that. Let's go back. Cool, but wait, there's more. Because I already had the data from pre-talks, it wasn't too much of a stretch to convert what I made to work for something like... Why did that page not show? Google Slides is really doing me dirty today. Something like the session run sheets, for example. Those are generated through templates. You'll see the session shares using those. And why stop there? I was given another task that I thought was pretty simple and straightforward. The Kiwi PyCon name badges. Here's where templates, or maybe my enthusiasm, came to bite me. Sometimes the things you love hurt you the most. So, there were a bunch of problems. Printers suck. Oh, yep, that too. They needed to be in a print-ready format in PDX. They needed to have 33mm bleed with crop marks. Inkscape doesn't handle that kind of stuff out of the box. And additionally, like, yeah, we need CMYK because of the way that things need to be printed, and Inkscape doesn't do that as well. And also time exists. Okay. So I took a breath, worked out a solution. I added in a 3mm bleed into the template itself, so basically around the edges, added extra space that we could cut around. And then additionally, I put that PDF into Scribus, which is another open source tool, which can handle doing the CMYK color stuff and also the crop marks and whatnot. Did a bunch of color correction in that, which is fairly simple-ish, and hey presto, we've got a badge. So, the pain wasn't over. It was mostly successful. However, for some reason that I still haven't figured out yet, some badges had this wrong name on the other side, which caused problems when it came to packing everything on Thursday. So I ended up having to figure out which ones were the wrong ones, and then get them reprinted on Friday morning. Now, regardless of those problems, I still love templating. What I've done for this conference will be able to be reused and built upon for years to come. All that hard work will pay off eventually. Well, okay, that's my talk. Thank you for listening. I hope I've inspired you all in some way, and maybe you can learn to love templates as much as I do.
Kia ora, Chelsea. Thank you so much for your talk. We have about 5 minutes left for questions if anyone would like to learn more about Ginger and templating. Any raised hands? No. You can.
Oh, we can just go to no, we just have extra time if anything. Oh, and there's just one at the back.
So my usual understanding of Ginger 2 is that it's very much geared towards HTML being Flask and stuff. And do you have to do anything in particular when you're working in a very non-HTML context for Ginger 2?
Not really. It's if you just consider the template, it's just a text file with little curly braces inside it, and you can have little logic bits in it. You pretty much just get your data. You use the Ginger library with setting where your environment is and stuff like that, where your templates should be, and then pretty much defining what go to. When you've defined that, you basically all you do is just get the data, and you just shove it to that template, and it basically just gives you that whole file. Then you can write out to something, so you don't even have to do anything like actual the file system as well. It can be all in.
Hello, this may have been mentioned in one of the slides that was being really annoying and not showing.
Yep.
Do you have any tips on how to handle the fact that some people have very, 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 very long names and how to present them nicely on lanyard badges?
That is a great question. My solution for that was basically finding which one was the longest name and managing the template to fit that in. That's pretty much it. I just adjusted and made sure that who I saw had the longest name, it fit in that. Now, do some things around, like say within the SVG, there's bits of thing. So you can programmatically set what font size actually ends up in that bot text box. So you could base it on length or something.
Sorry, me again. In the Python standard library, for those who have dug into it, there's actually a surprising number of template libraries already. There's, of course, the old string interpolation, there's f strings. And then there's one called templates, I think, that uses a $sign syntax that looks like Perl. And then there's something else again. With the literally dot template on a string. Python's done this a bunch of times. They're all just kind of string interpolation things. What features of Ginger 2 did you really need other than just variable insertion, which is the thing that you can get for free in Python? What else did Ginger specifically buy you?
I would say this is more specifically in terms of the work that I do around with Ansible and the Juniper stuff, where you've got something like when you were actually wanting to use a loop and have that embedded within the template itself, because you could also just have a template you loop through that, but say that can get kind of unwieldy when you're trying to build this thing in your head, when you're reading through the code base. Whereas if you just have the loops within the template itself, all you need is the data that goes into it, and it will just iterate through everything that it needs to and generate as much stuff as it needs. So that's kind of that's the main the appealing thing to me. Also, it's sort of the tool in front of me a lot of the time anyway, so I'm sure there's other tools that are also really great, but that's the thing. Yeah.
What tools or options do you have for debugging within your template itself?
Oh goodness. Debugging within it itself, I pretty much just eyeball the whole thing. So, or if you have like malformed SVGs and stuff like that, people complain at you in the command line. Also, if you've got like problems with data stuff like that, like the whole template will explode. So that's generally kind of, I just look at the problem and fix it, which is not a great answer because it's like, where's my actual testing and this kind of thing? Additionally, I would also, like, you could also, when I'm making these images and stuff like that, in that, for that example, I also have like a build folder where I'm building those SVGs. So I've got a record of those as well. So I can actually open those and see what they look like before they end up being a PDF, because maybe there's an export problem there as well. So it's kind of, which is like the command line, see any errors, follow the errors if there's a problem, and then also in Inkscape as well, if things look okay or not. It's kind of what I was.
Any further questions from the audience? Excellent.
Hi, great talk. You mentioned wanting to reuse it in the future. What sort of sharp edges still exist, or what changes do you need to make it more general purpose for perhaps other conferences or for future PyCons?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So what at least the level of reusability that I've got into it is for these, like, say for example, these name badges, I have it so that basically all these lines here are individual colors on itself. I can reuse those and change, like, these little arrow things are actually feet, and those colors can be changed. Additionally, with the talks gallery stuff, there's a whole bunch of stuff around, like, the logo positioning of it, the rotation of the Kiwi PyCon, like the little symbol that we have as well, and basically anything that is a certain color on that is templated in terms of what color that is. So I've actually got, like, in YAML a whole bunch of, like, what that theme is, and then I can specify that specific theme for the generation that I'm using. In terms of other conferences, it's not really built for other conferences. The template would probably need to be modified a bit to have like a different logo or something like that. But, you know, the general themes around that could probably be reused, or at least the generator programs that get stuff from the pre-talks then go into a template. If you just change the template, you should be able to do it for a different conference as well.